to our pod. And by that, I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are
my voice is like being weird there. Like, what's happening?
You also said it like so directly into the microphone. You like came in hot. You're like, I
like turned my head.
Laura.
I'm Laura.
Welcome
and
to the
don't
podcast.
You forget it.
I'm very important to this duo. And I'm Hannah. I already said that. We're two best friends who do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. Right now we are in The Year of the Dresden, and we're covering chapters 1 through 11 of Summer Night.
On the summer night.
That was
I could not stop thinking that anytime I like looked at the title of this book.
So funny because Paul walked into the kitchen the other night and he goes, "What's happening in Summer Night?" And like his sister and I both paused and we were both like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "The Dresden book Hannah is reading it." I was like, "Oh, right, that's its name."
you were like both thinking, "Oh,
we were like Greece,
nights." What a great title.
What a yeah, I know. And I just realized why it's called Summer Night, like as we were sitting here.
But honestly, Hannah, I saved this for the pod. What a banger of a book.
Okay, good. I'm a third of the way through. Laura's finished
I finished the book.
Okay, thank God.
I actually really love this one. Like
I was really scared because guys, before we started, I go, yeah, I'm about a third of the way in and I think it's my favorite. And Laura had no emotion on her face. And if she keeps it in, if you hear at the beginning of the recording, I kind of go, like there's like a little like break in my voice. Because I honestly was so scared that I was like, oh God, I'm gonna hate this book.
I was worried after the last one because I went into this one thinking like, the last one did not feel right. But this one was such a romp. And I have so many like notes of like things that I liked and enjoyed and that I thought were really well done. And I'm like, why did they say that the last book was the turning point in the series? I
wonder if it's because it's the setup for this one.
Better.
But remember, I think I said this at the wrap up of the last one. I was like, I think this is the shifting to like a better one. But
what a shift.
But what a shift. So I think that was all set up. And so people love it because it is the setup for this book. But I don't
and it's a shorter book.
Setup. Yeah, it's faster paced. Can I tell you my saga of going to get this at the library though?
Yes.
So absolutely. Most of the books I owned, I didn't have time to buy this one because I forgot to, and I thought Paul owned it, but he did not. And so it was like, oh crap. And then I had to read it this weekend, but I was kind of traveling because it was my bridal shower. So I was like, well, I have to go to the library tonight to get it. So I have it for this weekend. So the closest one, it was like, it was monikered PBK SF. And I was like, sure, fine, whatever. I'm just going to go to the library and pick it up. And I went there to the science fiction section, not there. And I was like, I don't know what PBK stands for. So I looked up PBK and they said paperback. And I said, wow, I'm really dumb. And so then I went to go to the paperback section.
Say that to the librarian.
No, I said it inside my brain, but I said it pretty loud. So maybe they heard me. So I went to the paperback.
I'm pretty dumb.
So I went to the paperback section. And it was like romance, Western, science fiction, T through W, and then mystery. There was no
romance.
Well, there was romance, but there was no sci-fi A through T. It just said T through W. And so I walked down that shelf and I was like, yeah, that is T and that is W. And then I kept searching and I couldn't for the life of me find it. So I went up to the information desk and there was an unaccompanied minor up there. And I was like, could you like help me find the BSF paperback? Because you guys only have T through W. And she goes, hold on 1 second. I have to help this minor. And then she left me. And so then I just scrolled the stacks and I was like, I feel like I'm going insane. I don't know where this book exists. And then I went back to the SF section and randomly at the bottom of the shelf, they had the beginning of the alphabet. But no notice that it was going to be there. Just like randomly, they were like, well, these books kind of count. And I'm like, but then tell me. And it was 20 minutes of my life that I will never get back of me being like, am I stupid? What's going on? The library is closing soon. And it is the most...
You should have just like started calling out, Jim Butcher.
Jim Butcher. And then I even went up to the front desk and they're like, you have to go to the information lady. And I'm like, but she is helping a small child. And I am an adult woman and I can't find this book.
Oh man, that is tore up too.
Yeah,
Hannah's holding up the book and it is
And I opened
Ravaged.
it, I picked it up and I was like, well, this is rough. And then I opened the first page
It
and it
looks like a
said,
Loop Guru got a hold of it.
it says only copy in the system, well worn, noted book cover torn, at 8/4/20 of 2023. So this book has seen things and it's
I
it's
mean,
it's a
it
good
looks like it
book,
was in the
but
middle of a war between the Red Court and the White
I
Council.
mean, exactly. So that is my saga of trying to get this book. I could have just gone to another library. I had time, but I was lazy and I really had to get to Meyer that night. And I ended up finding the dress I wore at my bridal shower, and that is what
Perfect.
happened. So, Laura, what are you reading, watching, and enjoying?
So, Hannah, I have been enjoying some of your wedding upcoming, like building up to your wedding activities. We had your bachelorette party
We did.
that we had a fun time at
We went to a burlesque show. It was
burlesque
a
show
very questionable burlesque show in
where
Chicago, Illinois.
Hannah's sisters were very uncomfortable. The show itself was great. I I don't remember the name of the
I won't
company.
name it because I'm just gonna say it was a little sketchy. I've been to 3 burlesque shows, and this was like one where I was like, "Well, this is a little sketchy." And then I looked it up, and I was like, "I did not research this enough before I went into it," because they were like, "Yeah, really, they're mostly just club shows," and I was like, "Oh, that makes sense for the energy we met
Sure.
with in the time
I
in the
I was
very
going to
strange
shout
space."
them out because I they had been review bombed, which I
Oh
felt bad about.
yeah,
And I did not think that was necessary because they
no,
seemed like nice people and
yes.
it was not a bad show. Like it was fun.
It was fun.
So
It was just unexpected for like what I'm used to for burlesque shows. So I
I
would say it was
had
a
no
little sketchy,
expectations and I thought it was fun.
but it
So
was fun. And honestly, I had a great time because I am willing to sometimes be like, you know what? It was a little sketchy. Great time. Why not? Why be review
right.
bombed for that? But I forget the
Yeah,
name of
I
it as well.
if I remember
But
the name of it, if I remember the name of it, I will shout them out in the next episode. Or if it comes to me in this episode, I will shout them out just
I think it
because
was
I feel
the
bad that they were review bombed.
I think it's the Red Lace Burlesque show.
Okay.
Um, and it was pretty good. It was
Yeah,
like I said, a little sketchy.
a
They
lot of
randomly
fun.
moved the locations and it was like in a very dark bar. So don't go in being like, this will be a high class establishment. It'll be a lot of fun and some people doing some great work.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
um, but yeah, we did enjoy that.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Hannah's bridal shower was just
And if
yesterday, and that was
it,
fun too. I told Hannah she does a great job opening gifts because I feel like it's always so uncomfortable in those situations or any situation where people make this comment about like singing the happy birthday song to
oh
people
yeah.
where you're sitting there and you're just like smiling while everyone in front of a cake while everyone
Hmm.
sings to you and it's
You're
just the
usually
most
being
uncomfortable
recorded.
thing. Yeah, it's the most uncomfortable thing in the world. And I feel like bridal showers are somewhat similar, but you did so great opening your presents. But it was good to see everyone and
Hmm.
everything. And I just thought it was a lot of fun.
I told
So,
Laura the secret to my success was knowing what everyone got me because I definitely peeked at
yes,
who bought what on the registry. So
yes, life
I
hack.
was really excited about most of it. So I was just like, "Ooh, I get to open it and like admit to people I know someone bought this for me."
Level up, people. Check the registry before you go
It,
to the shower.
it's a great time. I love looking at my registry. I love when I get a little notification saying like so and so RSVP'd, and I'm like, "Oh, that's one of Paul's people." I have so much family. Last night I go, oh my gosh, your first RSVP came through.
Oh my.
So,
Well, I guess that the RSVP. I guess I wouldn't have thought of the RSVPs as being like the like, oh, but
mhm.
all the moments are special, honestly.
It's fun to see who's coming.
It is. It is. I actually have been enjoying. We have like several weddings to go to this year,
Oh.
and it's like a lot for us because we're very much people that just like stay home with our goats,
Mhm.
and so not even lying.
No, she's not.
So so it's like very uh strange for us to have 6 weddings in a year, which we did. So it was really kind of fun for me because everyone this year did like the Knot websites
Mhm.
as like their RSVPs and everything. I don't know why I find those so fun to just go on there and be like, what would you like for your entree? And what would you like for your second entree? And do you have it? any allergies? And I don't know why. I was pretty much reading it like that to my husband too, and I'm like filling these out like, what do you want for your entree? But I find those so fun, and then I do like reading the stories that everybody has on their websites too. Like that's a lot of fun to just hear how like the bridal parties met, how the couple got engaged or met or whatever. I just really enjoy those. So I got to do that with 6 couples so far this year, and I just think those are fun. And I feel like when I got married, I didn't do the Knot website. It was like right on the cusp of
Oh
it, I
yeah, right
think,
before it
where
blew
it
up.
was like, yeah, where it was like some people were doing it, but it was still very much a time where it was like people were like, no, you better send out the paper RSVP things because you don't know if people will respond. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay. But now people are like so accustomed to the Knot.
It's so
But
much easier. My dad was like,
it
people
really
can do
is.
it. And I was like, good, because that's what I wanted
It
to do. I
really is
didn't
so
want to have
much
to pay.
easier. And
Um,
I honestly just like, as somebody who doesn't get invited to a lot of weddings, it's just like kind of fun to get to honestly experience some of these things. And that sounds so stupid, but when you're just home with goats all the time, it's like this is a thrill.
I mean, my not or my website has like someone was like, "Oh, I know who's officiating your wedding because you put it up." And I was like, right after Paul did nothing."
Oh no.
He has not put his people up on our website.
I did notice that it's there's only going to
Yes.
be Hannah's people in the wedding,
But
which
that's the most
I
important
guess.
part.
I
So,
guess.
uh yeah, it's a
Paul
lot of
may be there.
fun.
There was a picture of him on it. So we'll see.
But yeah, it'll be fun and I
I'll
think
be
our
recording live
questions,
from
yeah, I'm sure you
the
will.
wedding. I
Our
should
questions
actually
are
just
like,
record something and just put it in.
this is Laura coming to you while she gets her hair done before Hannah's wedding.
I just finished helping Hannah pee. She has a really fluffy wedding dress and needed help. So I'm coming to you from
You
the
know me,
bathroom at the banquet hall.
the poofiest of the wedding dresses. Uh, that was I think our questions are like, do you have a song that you want us to play? And specifically, Paul's brother tried to RSVP, and then he got so overwhelmed with the thought of that question, he left. Like he didn't
Oh, I
RSVP
just
for the
skipped it.
wedding. People love telling you what songs they want you to play. So
Really?
yeah.
Were there any like multiple requests for one song or
Not yet. I mean, not a lot of people have come through because my invites just went out. So
That's true.
people are
I
just
had
getting them.
actually gone on there and RSVP'd before I got the invites.
Well, I mean,
So whoops.
you're in the wedding, so shocker of all shockers,
Whoops.
you are going to be there. But I let you RSVP so that you could add a song if you wanted to, because I know my little
Ah.
niece will be requesting 22 by Taylor Swift, as well as Shut Up and Dance with Me because she loves that song because she
You know
gets to
what? Shut Up
say
and
shut
Dance with
up.
Me is actually a fun
It's our
wedding
entrance
song.
song, so that's fine. We're gonna play it
Mhm.
anyway, but my sister was like, she likes it because she gets to say shut up. Like, don't let kids
Yeah.
fool you. They just love saying a bad
They
word.
love reactions to bad words.
They really do.
Yeah.
That was my little nephew told me a story. He goes, "Do you want to know what's weird, Hannah?" And I said, "Sure, why don't you tell me?" And he goes, I went to say the word ask, and then accidentally forgot to say the K. And so I said
I
the
hate when
A
that
word.
happens.
And he goes, and then this one kid always said he would never tell on me if I said a bad word. And then he told on me. And I just think that's weird. And I go, I don't know if I define that as weird, buddy.
That is just the
That is
worst when
just
that
that's
happens.
just a story you told me. Like,
How relatable. I also forget to add letters sometimes like
I
that.
was like, I'm pretty sure he just wanted to tell me how he said the word ass.
Yeah, like here's a quick workaround for you. Just
Like,
don't say the K.
just don't say it was an accident. Obviously, I just forgot to say the K. And I'm like,
Or an
also, it just sounds like
accident.
it's not weird. It just sounds like your friend's a little bit of a dick.
I dig it.
Yeah. So
But Hannah, I've been enjoying your wedding activities.
thank
I
you.
find this
I've
so
been
fun,
enjoying them
and
too.
I'm excited for your upcoming nuptials. It's also one of those things though where like I don't want to like rush into it because I'm just like I want to savor it all. But the wedding I think is the thing that I've got on my docket. So ready for a fun time.
I'm so excited for it to be done. I'm so excited that my
Oh
washer
no.
decided to break last week, and now we're redoing parts of our bathroom about 90 days out. And I'm like, this is great.
Uh,
I'm totally fine. Um,
Sitting the meme of the dog sitting in the fire.
yeah, like this. I didn't buy a car a week and a half ago.
It's all okay. I'm
I'm
not
not
really
really
here.
here. I'm not really here.
Oh my. Hannah, I read another Emily Henry book.
Oh my God, which one?
Book
I know which
Lovers.
one.
Yeah, you followed me on Goodreads, so you know I read Book
You also
Lovers.
told me.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Book
So
Lovers?
I listened to the audiobook, and Julia Whelan is the narrator, who Julia Whelan is an excellent narrator. I listened to Julia's book that she wrote, Thank You for Listening, and I really enjoyed that one too. And I think she does a great job. But for whatever reason, when I was listening to Book Lovers, I kind of was thinking that Nora, the main character, should have had a younger voice. And I don't know if it's just because I think she was also stated to be 32. I am 32 and I have a very young sounding voice, so I just assume that people should sound young, and Julia
Whereas
Whalen does not sound that young.
I'm a 33-year-old woman and I sound very old, so I don't know what
I
you're
mean, you
talking
don't really. So
about. I don't know what you're talking
nice
about. I sound
try.
ancient.
Nice try. But I don't know why I sometimes do that where if they tell me the age of a character, if it's someone who's in their 20s or my age, I'm going to assume that the voice sounds younger. And I
Yeah.
think that might have taken away from the book a little bit, but there was a lot about Book Lovers that I appreciated that I think was not in the other books of Emily Henry's that I read. And I think the biggest part was that this one seemed more realistic
Mm,
than the other books. Like
yeah.
there were such realistic components to this that you didn't have in the other books, where it's like even their jobs, like their jobs were, a book editor and a gosh, I can't even think, an agent.
Yeah.
And those seem like fantastic jobs for people that, love to read. But even like the way that they came about getting their jobs and everything seemed more realistic than the
Right.
other books did. I don't know why I harp on jobs in romance books, but it's just something that sticks out to me. But the situations that Nora and her sister Libby had, and also like their relationship with their mother, and then the relationship that Charlie had with his family. I
Hmm.
thought all of these things were so much more realistic than the other books that Emily Henry has written. They're I don't know if the only thing that like held me back on this was honestly just like the relationship seems so quick.
Right.
Where I was just like, this seems very quick for two people that just kind of like knew of each other to suddenly just be like, we're in love. And I was like, oh, you are? Okay. But because like in Beach Read, they had known each other for a period of time, and it kind of made sense
Right.
that, they had the rival relationship and then became lovers. But this one, it was just like, no, they're coworkers who kind of knew of each other, and then after a vacation, now they're lovers. That was, I think, maybe the thing that held me back from giving this 5 stars. But a lot of the other aspects of this book I really enjoyed, and I thought it was a really fun one
Oh,
compared to
good.
especially Happy Place. I just thought this was a lot more fun than that one. But I
This is
just
a lot more
appreciated
fun.
how realistic the situations were, and like they're especially the way that like Nora felt about her own personality and the way that people
Hmm.
perceived her, and the way that she had to basically become an adult at a young age. I thought that
Hmm.
was so. I personally don't find that super relatable, but I know of a lot of people that that situation directly applies to, where they're in a situation that they they're being raised by a single parent or what have you, or it doesn't even have to be being raised by a single parent, but that's what the situation is in this book,
Right.
where the oldest child is kind of then forced to adopt almost like a partnership with the
Hmm.
parent in order to raise a younger sibling or siblings. And I found that to be extremely unique that this type of relationship would be mentioned, and
Yeah.
also that it was written well.
Yeah.
And I don't think that it was one where I was like, no, I can't see this happening. It's just like, no, this is very real. And then the way that it shaped her and how Nora really just kind of became so self-conscious about
Hmm.
the way that people perceived her when it totally made sense that she was the way she was because of the situations that she had grown up in. I
Right.
just thought it was really, really good. And Charlie was a fun character too. I appreciated that he had really great humor. I I just
I always
really
say that
liked that.
he's one of my favorite like romantic leads of them. Like I
Yeah.
really
I
liked
I
who
liked him
he
a lot
was.
too. And
Yeah.
it also just kind of made me laugh that like they went there because it's like the Hallmark town
Hmm.
basically, that it's all based off. They went there on vacation because it's all based off this show that Libby likes and everything. You find out that there's actually a different reason that they
Right.
decide to go on vacation in this town, but it's very much like playing into the tropes, but at the same time it feels like no, this could actually happen. And I really just thought that Charlie was very much like the stereotypical romantic lead that you'd find in one of these Hallmark-esque movies
Right.
or romance books, but it worked so well.
That's
And I
good.
just really enjoyed him.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
So yeah, I think
Yeah.
this is my second favorite one. I
I
think
think,
Beach Read is still my favorite, and I think this is
yeah.
my second favorite.
Funny Story and Book Lovers are always neck and neck for me because I really liked both of
Hmm.
them for very different reasons. But I do think Charlie is like, I don't know, there's something about the dark and broody guy. He's just always so great.
Yeah.
So,
I also just thought like the relationship between Libby and Nora was really great too. Like I appreciate a sister trip. I appreciate that
hmm.
they were very concerned about losing each other. And that was
Yeah.
almost as much of a focus in the book as the relationship between Nora and Charlie, even more so, really.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of nice too, that it wasn't just like, oh yeah, this just about this guy that she met a few weeks ago. Like, okay. But yeah, there were just a lot of realistic aspects to the book
Good.
that made it better. They
Good. I
really
like it.
helped make it better. But Hannah, I finished The Acolyte, and
Oh, I'm still so far behind.
I feel like you haven't been like watching a ton of TV. You've got a lot going on.
Yeah.
So, but I really liked the show. I hope that they could get a season two because they did kind of leave things a little
Mm.
like open for that, but at the same time, they probably won't because this is just what's been happening. They'd get one season for things, and that's fine, I guess. But I do think there's definitely the potential to have a season two for this show. I think the last episode was not quite as strong as some of the others, but it was just a little predictable, was probably the worst part for me. And and it is what it is that it was predictable. I was also like reading articles on things regarding the show and everything too. So that may be why I found it predictable that I had read theories or whatever.
Got it.
But overall, I thought the show was really good. It
Mm.
wasn't my favorite of the Star Wars shows.
Yeah.
That still goes to Andor. That show is phenomenal. But I do think that The Acolyte did a lot of really good things. And
Good.
the criticism of it is just too harsh because it's
Yeah.
a good show and it's a show that's questioning some of the motives of like the Jedi and the like people that we hold up on pedestals, like are they always
Which is
good?
good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate those types of questioning of systems. So I appreciate The Acolyte for what it is. I do think that there are some really great performances that Lee Jung Jae and Amanda Stenberg do a fantastic job in this series,
Good.
and they just need more like praise because they do so well. So,
Good. Oh, that's good to know.
but Hannah, the other thing I've been watching, it's a rewatch show that I haven't mentioned for a while,
Mm.
but I've been watching it to like fall asleep. The Good Place.
What a good show. Is it
You know
because you were
what?
watching The Acolyte?
I know it wasn't.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. I was just like,
because
oh, that makes sense.
no, I was because the Acolyte was just like a once a week thing.
Mm.
But The Good Place, I just started rewatching it to fall asleep, and I don't know why I never go back to this one that often. And I'm kind of like in the midst of season one. I'm like, this is actually a really good show. I can't believe that I forget about this one and don't give it more credit. And
Yeah.
it's just really good, but it's funny to me now where I'm just like trying to pick up on things where I'm like, the first time I watched this, I can't believe I missed that. Or it's funny when you rewatch it how you can tell like these little things that you didn't pick up on. So I'm
Right.
really enjoying that rewatch.
Good. That's
But Hannah,
awesome.
what are you reading, watching, and or enjoying?
Well, if people are premium members of our Patreon, they will know that I watched the documentary series on Netflix, American Nightmare, and
And you're
I
not going to
thought
talk
about,
about too much, right? Because you're going to
right.
direct people over there.
I'm directing everyone over there. Go spend $10 this month to hear Hannah's thoughts on this show because it was wild. I had so many thoughts on it that Laura was like, "Hey, we need a premium episode." And I was like, "I've got it in the bag. I know what I want to talk about. I want to talk about this show for 15 minutes." And so I gave Laura a quick rundown and like things I saw that were a little bit problematic with the show and things that I definitely liked about the show. So that was a wild ride. And then I keep meaning to finish this, but I will start it and then I will forget that I watched it and then I'll be rewatching the first episode and I'm like, I've seen this before. And I think it's happened 2 or 3 times now. And it's called Escaping Twin Flames. It is also
Okay.
on Netflix and it is a true crime documentary about a cult. Um, it's just wild because like now we're getting into cults or murder mystery shows that all have like we're all in such a digital age and everyone is documenting everything that is so
Hmm.
weird. So like Escaping Twin Flames, the weirdest part about it is like some former member like had every single recording they ever had and sent it in like a giant hard drive to one of the other former members and they gave it to
Oh,
the
really?
production company. So like you get to see all of the meetings with like the cult leaders and like all these like YouTube videos and everything that they say off the cuff and you're just like this is wild to watch.
Yeah.
Um and so it's just very strange because you're just watching like a bunch of stuff and like obviously I grew up in very specific religious connotations that I don't think are bad or good. I'm not saying it's a cult, but there are certain things where you're like, oh yeah, if you don't grow up in that you think it's super weird from the outside looking in. And so
Hmm.
when you're listening to people talk, you're like, this is so strange. We're like, yeah, but if you're super invested in this, like, I could see where you would go down that path. And it just sounds like, oh, well, you're supposed to meet your twin flame. You're supposed to meet the love of your life, and you're going to be so spiritually connected. Like, it's meant to last, and you just have to trust yourself spiritually. And I'm like, I think I could understand why someone would feel like really seen and heard in that if they were desperate to
Hmm.
try to be seen and heard. But like it's a wild ride where the main leader, I mean, I think it's still active, and the main leader like told people to like go stalk their former partners if they were meant to
Oh my
be,
gosh.
like and like try to force sex on them to like convince them to be with them. And like
Oh my gosh.
and there's like a woman who's like, yeah, I had a really successful life and like he convinced me that I had to go after my soulmate because he's my soulmate and it's worth it. And then I'm like, he told me that the restraining order didn't exist. And like, it's all this stuff of like, yeah, it's really wild. So I've been watching
It's
that.
disturbing.
It's very disturbing. So I don't know what I've been on a true crime kick lately. Probably just because I'm so busy that I'm like, yeah, I'll put on an episode and just watch it.
There's
Um,
something about that though, where it's like, I feel like overwhelm can go a variety of ways, but there are times when you're stressed and overwhelmed and you're just like, I need to not think about anything. And
yeah,
there's times when you're like, I need to think about anything else. And so
right.
you twist and you go into like a true crime mode
Hmm.
or a documentary mode where you're like, I have to learn about something.
Yeah. And so that's, I feel like, well, a little bit of this, I'm like, I don't have to learn, but I get to feel a little bit like it's easier to watch because, like, I feel like it's kind of like a podcast where you turn on in the
Hmm.
background. You're like, I'm definitely listening, but I'm not like actively
Sure.
listening,
Yeah, you don't have
Um,
to stare at it.
and speaking of which, an audiobook I listened to A Slow Fire Burning by Paula Hawkins, the woman who wrote The Girl on the Train, which was just like a knockoff Gone Girl that I remember reading and being
Okay.
like, this is a weird story. And then it was made into a movie starring, I believe, was it Emily Blunt? Um,
Oh, interesting.
and yeah, it's Emily Blunt as an alcoholic woman. And then I remember that it had Justin Thoreau in it as her former husband. And I I can't remember that Justin Thoreau is an actor. I never remember why he's famous. Uh when he was
I
married
will
to
say
Jennifer.
that he looks different every time I see him.
Yeah, and for a long time I was like, he's like a rock star, right? He's like a rock star of a band I've never heard of. And then people were like, no, he's a very famous
No,
actor. And I'm like, but I don't think he is. Like, how famous
but
can
he
he
was in Parks
be?
and Rec for a few episodes. He played
Yeah,
Justin, and then he
yeah, but
married Jennifer
like,
Aniston, and then he had a really cool haircut. And
name five shows he's been in.
I
Like,
can't.
yeah,
I
you
can name
can't.
5 episodes of Parks and Rec.
So
That's it.
has he actually been an actor? Like, I just don't know. And it looks like he is nepotism, so that makes sense because
Okay.
I don't understand how this man has stayed employed in Hollywood because I blink and you miss him. He has a face that is meant to be forgotten.
I will
Um
say a bunch of the stuff that I'm looking up, I have not seen that he is
yeah, I
in.
mean, I've seen Rock of Ages. I've
He's
seen
in
Zoolander.
American Psycho. He's in Megamind, Mosquito
Sure.
Coast. Okay, I've seen Romeo and Michelle's high school
I
reunion,
have seen Romeo and Michelle's high school
but I
reunion.
don't remember him in
No.
that.
I have never seen
Yeah,
Mulholland Drive. I have seen Zoolander. I have seen Charlie's Angels Full Throttle. I have
I
seen
have only seen of these like
I
Romeo and
have seen
Michelle.
Duplex, but I remember that being awful. So yeah, I just don't believe he's actually an actor. And you could tell me he was a bot, and
Okay.
I would honestly be like, yeah, I would bet on
Oh, he's
that.
in Iron Man too. How do I
Oh
not know that?
yeah. He was like one of the evil guys, and I no, he was just a writer.
Okay, well then I
Sure
I'm
he
at a
was.
loss. I'm
But
at a loss
anyway,
because
he was
I
on the
am a
Girl on the
Marvel super
Train,
fan. I don't know.
which was not a very good movie and not a very good book from what I remember. And I think she also wrote another book called Into the Water. And I remember that was also kind of, I just remember this like the ending of the like mystery was so funny to me. And so I was like, yeah, I'll listen to like a quick one. And this is probably my favorite of all of hers. And I can't remember what it's about sitting here with you today.
Okay.
Oh, so she really loves like people with drinking issues. She loves to have an unreliable narrator who was just drunk the night before, so you can't remember. But this one was
Okay.
at least interesting and it passed the time. And it was narrated by Rosamund Pike, which I think did it a lot of favors because she
And
is
also Gone Girl. Like,
yeah, exactly. And so that's the problem of like, look, Justin Thoreau, you can't convince me he's an actor. Rosamund Pike, charming as ever.
yeah.
She is hilarious. She once went on a blind date because Judi Dench told her to with some random man, like
Yeah.
who was a fan of hers. So she's just a charming woman. But it's about like this family who has a lot of turmoil. Um, and recently, like one of them passed away, and then all of a sudden, the son of the alcoholic woman who just passed away dies, and they think it's this girl who has some like mental health issues and it's very much like who did it, what happened kind of thing, and there's a lot of complications and a lot of messiness. And I wouldn't say these are ever like the best books you're ever going to read, but I had a good time listening to this as an
Mhm.
audiobook, and I like mediocre murder mystery thrillers in audiobook form when you just kind of like need something on in the background. So
Sure.
I didn't mind this book. I thought it was good. I mean, it always has its problematic stuff of like, why do we say like, someone with mental health is going to be like screaming at people and doing things like that. But I don't think it was the worst representation I've ever seen, but be careful of that. Um,
Okay.
and
Which that's good context. So,
yeah, so I think that was a little bit of a bummer. And like I don't know. I always think it's weird because like it's a British person, and I always feel like British people are also like they don't like to point out some of their like fat phobias or racisms or things like that. And like some of the book was like kind of fat phobic and like, oh, she's a shrew 'cause she's fat. And I'm like, yeah, sure, okay. But she
I
seems
have
smart and
noticed I don't know if this is like just me projecting. I'm not sure. People can call me on this, but I have noticed that there are some differences in like the ways that British people and American people will talk about things in books.
mhm. Yeah. And so that definitely has that. And I also thought the book had two chapters that I did not need at the end. I was like,
Oh,
you could have left this
yeah,
off
chop that out.
and we didn't need it. And I guess you really thought you needed it, but you didn't. And then I also listened to a much better book because it was excellent. The Empress of Salt and Fortune by Ingvo. I loved this. It was
Okay,
so good.
I want to read those so bad. Novellas, right?
Yeah, they're little novellas. We follow
It's a whole
G.
series.
Yes. And we have this person who is traveling to see a festival and kind of like take notes on it. And they run into this woman named Rabbit, who is a handmaiden to the Salt of, or the Empress of Salt and Fortune, and like lived with her during all of her time. And it's just like this discussion of what happened during that time and the Empress's like obsession with mysticism. And I thought it was so good. I really liked it. It was a lot of
I need to read
fun.
that. You know who loves that series is Martha Wells. I wanted to
Oh
say
my
that Martha
gosh.
might have blurbed it. I
Oh, I would not be
but
shocked.
Martha has shouted that series out on Blue Sky, I know,
Mm.
as like
Well,
recommending it to other people.
and I accidentally bought the third book, and I didn't realize that I bought the third of the series. So,
Oh,
but the first two are on Hoopla through Chicago, so everyone should definitely listen or read them because
I
they
need to
were
check those out.
beautiful and they're so quick. They're like 125
And
pages,
also,
so
can I just say the covers of those books are gorgeous.
they're
Like
so
I
amazing. Ugh,
love them.
I know. And like it's all about it's very political drama. It's very it's
Hmm.
and, like it
That
really
sounds like
packs
right
a
up my alley.
it packs a punch in 125 pages. Like, oh my gosh, I listened
Hmm.
to it in a day because it's like
Yeah,
so
4 hours
quick.
probably
It's two
if
hours and
it's a novella.
25 minutes.
Oh, that's it? Wow.
That's it. It's so quick, Laura. So it's so good.
Why was I
Everyone go
thinking
listen
four
to it.
hours?
I know because sometimes you think, but like it's just it's so good. And there's so many moments where like the author could tell you so much more and like go into depth, but like you get to read between the lines, and I think it does it so effectively. And I liked the storytelling aspect. I liked the way it like there were parts that I didn't expect to be that big of a deal. And I'm like, oh, this is one where I like want to reread it. And I might actually want to like reread it in like
Hmm.
page format. And I've been wanting to read Ingvo's work for a very long time. And I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. Um, so I just want to make sure. Oh, Nevo. I apologize. Nevo.
Okay.
Um, so I really liked her work. I really wanted to read it, and I was very interested.
What
So
other things has Vo written besides
uh
the
s-
Empress of Salt and Fortune series?
so she has written The Beautiful and the Damned, which is like
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
and or I'm sorry,
The Chosen
the
and the Beautiful.
the Chosen and the Beautiful. Thank
Yeah,
you
yeah,
for
yeah.
that.
I'm
Um
recognizing that
Yes.
one.
And
Hmm.
then I also was supposed to read another one called The Siren Queen for book club, and I forgot to.
Okay.
So that's just how Hannah works. So and then
Okay.
she wrote The City of Glass, in Glass, Don't Sleep with the Dead. So a bunch of different stuff. So I've been dying to
Okay.
read something of hers, and this one came up and I got to read it and it was excellent. So great
Hmm, I'll
start
have to
to
check
her
those out.
works. Definitely get them. Like I said, see if they are available on Libby. Or you can always check to see if they're available on my Hoopla. So, but yeah, that's mostly what I've been reading, watching, and or enjoying. But Laura, should we dive into the first Dresden File book we've liked?
The first one that I was like, this is a good book.
And honestly, I did not have high hopes when I first started out
I
because in
didn't either. I
chapter
was
one,
honestly, I was kind of putting it off. Honestly, I did not want to
yeah,
read it. I was like, no, not feeling
well,
that.
and of course
So glad
we
to be pleasantly surprised.
we drop in on Harry and he's going to a park to meet with Billy, who was
Can I
nerdy
just
at
say though, the opening line, I this is my first note. It says it was raining toads the day the White Council came to town. And I think that that is just such a banger of an opening line. Like props, Jim
good
Butcher. Like way to go. I am giving you the sorority girl snap. Like that is awesome. I really dug that line.
naps. So I did get worried though because he's in a park. He's with Billy, the werewolf,
From the
uh,
alphas.
of the
Our pack.
alphas, and Billy's like, "We're worried about you, boss." Like, And Harry's like, I'm doing fine in my sweatpants and t-shirts, even though it's really hot out.
Collect some of these
Um,
toads. We might
I
need them. We're not
again, I
sure if they're
do.
constructs of the Never Never.
I did like that though. So Harry is like,
Honestly,
drink.
there are very few things in this where I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Things are explained well, and I'm like, yeah, no, I get it.
So it is really good. I liked it a lot. So it's raining toads. Harry has to see if they're constructs or if they're actual toads. And if they're constructs, like that's just magic. It's fine. It's whatever. But if they're real, then they're in trouble. And guess what? They're real. And he's like, that means someone is messing with magic. It's not good. But while he's trying to figure it out, Harry is tried. Someone tries to gun Harry down, and we find out that the vampires are pretty much at war with the White Council. They're
Mhm.
coming to town to deal with Harry. He doesn't know what's going to go on.
Yeah, there's been
Um,
a war going on since the events of the last book.
and so he was able to stop, but there was an unhoused woman who was actually not an unhoused woman. She was there to kill him. And Harry's a little bit depressed, guys, because his lover told him no to his proposal in the last
Hmm.
book, and she's
Which
off.
did that?
I mean,
Obviously, she was going to tell him no because that was just like
because
I
Elaine
think
hadn't
I'm
showed
ready
up
to
yet.
commit now.
Yeah,
Like,
it was.
no, you're not.
No, you're not. He was never ready to commit. Um, But Billy's like, we got to get you out of the house. We got to do this. And so they try to get him gunned down. And I did like it. He goes, well, I know that they're real frogs because this one I almost like slammed into the ground. And I was like, that's a great note. Thank you for that, Harry. I actually did like that. And so there he's like, I'll research into this. But also Billy goes, hey man, I went to your work. You're about to get evicted. I took a client for you. And Harry's like,
Yeah, I'm like, why is Billy making appointments?
I
But
don't know.
okay, and Dresden also is like, why are you making appointments for me?
It's so strange because like all we know is like Billy was there a year and a half ago, and then it's like, well, we're it's like Snowball and what's his face and Stuart Little. You're my best friend.
You're my best friend. What happened to Michael? Oh
Right.
well,
What
I'm
happened to
not
Michael?
asking that again because I don't want him back.
I
Billy
don't
is
really.
much better.
I mean, Billy's better because I didn't have to deal with him
But
too
also
much in
he
this
just
first
calls
arc.
him Billy the werewolf, which I'm like, okay.
And so Harry like sees himself in the Beatles mirrors and he's like, "Ooh, I do not have mirrors in my house because they are dangerous, but I look bad."
Yeah, he says
Uh
I look wrecked.
Um, and then he almost cries because his
Well, he's
lover done left
researching
him.
so much about
And
Susan, trying to
yeah,
figure out like why what he can do and
he's trying to find a vaccine. There
how
is no
yeah, which
vaccine.
okay, my comment says bahaha. Dresden is going to make his own vaccine. That just makes me laugh.
I do
What would
like
that vaccine be? Like,
I like that we have him actually doing wizard work. Like we always just have that happening off screen and he's like, "No, I actually have to actively look into
yeah,
making
like he's
spells."
actually got a Bunsen burner and beakers he talks about
Which
multiple times in this.
as someone who was a huge fan of Charmed in the early 2000s, I did love when the witches were like, "Hey, I've been
They
working on
actually
like
have to brew
spells."
potions.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were like, "I have to brew a potion and it doesn't really work that well." And it's like, "Yeah, sometimes you can't just do everything right the
Right.
first time, Harry. Sometimes things explode on you." So he goes to take the meeting with his new client.
Well, first he goes and sits in his car and he's eating soup and crying. And I feel so bad for him because he's like going through it. He has no money. He's getting evicted. Susan left him. He's eating soup. Like all of these things are terrible.
Laura, you love a good soup.
Not in a summer night.
Not in a summer night. You are correct. We are not soup people during the summer.
No.
So he goes to his place. It is really gross. He talks about like how mold is covering everything, and it's like Harry.
And he also
Like
talks about like the flyers that he's got by the door, which have great titles. I always appreciate when he gives the titles of some of these.
it is very good. And the person comes to get his help, and she's
Super
like,
hottie.
"You have to impress me. I am Miss Somerset." And I don't think you have what it takes to help me, Harry Dresden. And he's like, well, I really need the money. And she's like, wow, you're just desperate. And he's like, kind of, but like, thanks for noticing. But something about her just isn't right. She's just a little too much and she
Hmm.
smells too nice. And so Harry rolls out an iron nail towards her and she jumps back at the last moment, revealing the fact that she is dun 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 dun, a fairy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I don't mess with fairies. And she's like, you'll mess with me. I am monarch, or she's like, I am Mab, queen of air and darkness, monarch of the winter court of the Sida.
And you find
eh,
out that she has taken over the debt that he had with his godmother
Thank God
or
that
with a
woman is not here
contractor.
right now. If I had to deal with the godmother doing all this stuff at this moment, I'm sure she's back. But if we had to do setup with her, I would have been furious to be like, oh God, she's back this soon. I needed some good before I got back into the godmother of it all because I really hate how much she says, like, my godmother. It's just like, it's such there. So I'm playing
There
the game.
are a lot of like creepy things that were mentioned about it, and it was just like, I don't like
Yeah,
that.
that's what I don't like. And so I'm playing the game, the Hollow Knight, and
Hmm.
on it there's like these little slugs you have to release because you're
Hmm.
mostly killing bugs and they get trapped in glass jars and they have to return to like the father slug or whatever. And you go back to him and he
Slug
gives you
father.
money and like little things for returning his children. And so sometimes I'll go to my sister-in-law and go, I have to get back to daddy. And she was like, do not call him that. That is disgusting. And that is
Yeah,
how I feel
weird.
about godmother. I'm only
Yeah.
doing it to mess with her. That is exactly why I'm doing it. And I
Hmm.
think it's funny. But anyway, um,
But this
but this woman has
Mab. Also,
Mab.
I just need to point out that Marsters, when he's reading this book, it took me the longest time to figure out that this woman's name is Mab, M-A-B, and not
Oh,
M-A-V or
Mav.
M. Yeah, he does not pronounce it well enough where it's like, did he say Mav or did he say Mad or did he say
Hmm,
Mab? Like
interesting.
I can't tell.
So yes, Mab has taken over the debt and she wants his help and they bargain together. And she
She
says,
needs
I
him to
want you to do
fill three
three
requests.
tasks. And he's just like, well, I get to pick which ones. And she's like, okay.
Well, it's so weird because she's like, uh, I need you to figure out who killed some guy. And he's like,
It's just some
no,
old
I don't
man.
wanna.
I
And
know. I was like,
then he's like,
Harry.
you know what? I will because the Fairy Queen has a great ass. Like, okay.
I like this because Harry is like, no, I'm not going to find out who killed an old man. And I'm like, that seems like a pretty easy task. Again, you are a detective. Like,
Like,
what are you
dude, just
talking about?
do your job. Like, it's okay.
But she does say that he will be seeing someone, a summer court emissary soon, and he'll know them when he sees them.
Hmm.
And so Harry's like, great, I am now in it with the Winter Court Queen, and you can't mess around. This is not good. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I am not on the up and up right now. And also I'm late for the White Council meeting. And
Yeah.
so
And
he
Chicago
like,
traffic is bad. So
I mean, that
he
is true.
gets
Um,
there late and he meets Ebenezer McCoy.
Ebenezer McCoy, the most Southern man who ever Southerned,
I
and
hated the accent that
he's
we had
from
to hear.
Missouri. Like
Well, he talks like this,
and
and
he
it's
calls
so
everyone
annoying.
horse. And we
Oh,
find out that he kind of helped raise Harry after
mhm.
the events with Justin and
Justin.
Elaine, evil man Justin, and
Justin Thoreau.
like imagine if they hired him. He would do great with that role. I
Wouldn't
would
that be
forget his
amazing?
face immediately.
He
That's
can
great
only play
casting. Thank you.
Justin's.
He can only play Justin. It's a rule. And Harry's like, it's raining toads, Ebenezer. And Ebenezer is like, look, man, I'm trying to help you out. You need to play politics a little bit
Mhm.
more. We're trying to get the senior council on your side. It's not going
It's like you
well.
need to get some votes so they don't kill you.
The Merlin wants to kill you pretty much. The council's super upset with you. And Ebenezer really loves Harry because he helped raise him during a dark time and they wanted to
Hmm.
murder him anyway because he had killed Justin Thoreau. And
Hmm.
then he thinks like Harry's come a long way and Harry has great power, but he squanders a lot of stuff with his hot head.
Hmm.
And so we walk in to the White Council, and of course, who is there but our favorite man, Morgan? Oh, we also meet two
Well, we
people
all
from the
like a
senior
couple of
council.
people show up.
Yes, from the scene.
Martha and then another
Mm.
guy who is really stoic and has a long braid and has the most terrible name.
So
This is honestly my biggest gripe with the whole book.
this and the fact that the black woman is named Martha Liberty.
Yeah,
That's
that
a first round note if I ever read one. We have
bad.
Martha Liberty, a woman who is part of the White Council, Senior Council, which great. Love to see a woman in power be a person of color. But Ebenezer also meets us. He also introduces us to a man he termed, isn't it Injun Joe?
Injun
Um,
Joe and his pet raccoon little brother.
and his name is actually Listens to Wind. So
Hmm.
that's great.
Yeah.
Um, yes, and little brother, his raccoon.
And there's also like a terrible joke that's made that's basically like, well, you should be PC and call me Native American Joe. And I'm like, why was this joke even
But
made?
he doesn't care because it's the early 2000s. So anyway, the two of them are there to meet Harry to see if they're willing to like vote to not
Hmm.
kill him pretty much.
And they
And
seem like reasonable people, but Harry
yeah.
still is just Harry.
But yeah, Harry goes inside. He meets with random wizards. Again, he runs into Morgan, who I don't
Morgan
understand
is a
Morgan's point.
warden.
Morgan is the warden from the first book who kept like screaming at Harry that he was evil. And I feel like the characterization from Morgan got switched up in this novel because in the first one, it's like he's just a bastion of like rule following and goodness. And now it's like
Now
he'll
he's a
do
conspiracy
whatever.
theorist.
Yeah, now he's a conspiracy theorist and he'll do whatever the Merlin tells him to do. And that doesn't make sense with the
Hmm.
person we met for why he hates Harry. Now it just feels like he hates Harry because reasons. But that is like one of my other gripes. Not as bad as the racist stereotypes, but
Right.
you know,
The racist
um
stereotypes are the worst part.
I would hope so. But like
No, of the entire book, honestly.
oh,
Like,
no, 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 I'm sure. So Morgan has like Harry, like the ward hounds have to look him over. He makes him rip off a bandage just in case, just to like pretty much mess with him, it seems like. But he's like, no, it's because you could have magic in there. And so Harry goes in. Apparently, they all have to speak in Old Latin. And so Harry's like listening. He doesn't quite understand what's going on because he doesn't know all of the Latin that he should be doing. And
yeah,
so
he hasn't studied up enough.
the Merlin is kind of talking about Harry. They're talking about the Red Court. A senior council member died, and he was definitely going to be on
Like
Harry's
the
side.
vampire expert,
Yes.
basically.
And so it was a big deal that they killed him because the Red Court usually wouldn't mess with the expert who was willing to speak on their behalf. And it kind of shows that they are out for blood. And the senior member would have voted for Harry. And Ebenezer is like, it's okay. I have a backup plan. And Ebenezer also discovers that like the Merlin is really political. He always has a specific plan, a backup plan, and then a wild card if none of those
Hmm.
win so he can get his way. Um, and so the Merlin is kind of like, yeah, we've been trying to get with the Red Court. They're not interested, but they have said that they'll do it on one condition if we hand over Harry Dresden. And they ask kind of Harry to speak for his own defense. He bunkles it because he can't speak Latin.
He's like, I think I've got this. And then he basically is like, sorry that I'm late. My clothes were not done at the dry cleaners. What an idiot I am. And they're like, did you know what you said?
And he's like, I thought I said this. And Ebenezer's like, let me just translate for
No.
you. And so the Merlin tries to appoint one of his like back pocket guys.
Hmm.
And Ebenezer steps in and he's like, hey, he's pretty low on the totem pole. We should go through everyone. And he puts himself forward. And the guy who's in the Merlin's back pocket is like, no, I'm going to step down because Ebenezer is a senior council person.
Yeah. So
Um,
McCoy he ends up on the council.
yeah, he's on the council and the Merlin is pissed.
And then
And so
also, like right after this, Morgan gives a report about how the Red Court Power Center is in South America. And I don't know why I immediately was like, just like Madam Web.
it's because Morgan's a conspiracy
I
theorist. It's all
know.
connected. It is in association with Marvel. So anyway, they go to vote on if they're going to hand Harry over, and the Merlin wants to like put the vote to everyone. And Ebenezer is like, no, 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 no. We're not going to use scare tactics to do this. We're going to do
Hmm.
senior council only. And so Joe, I'm going to call him Joe. I cannot
Yeah.
call him by that
Yeah. No,
moniker.
no, absolutely not.
Joe, Martha, and Ebenezer vote to let Harry live. And then the
How
Merlin
kind.
and then Merlin and Lafortier, who is just like random man who screams a lot. They're like,
Hmm.
he's too dangerous. And then um this older woman who I forget what she was called, but it was something a little bit rude where they're like, oh, she's so old and frail. And her name is May. she was like, I don't know, I think he's too dangerous, so I have to say no, he's too hot-headed. And she actually seems to have like reasons
Mhm.
other than the first two who are like, we don't like Harry.
Yeah.
And so it's 3-3, and the gatekeeper, a very tall, dark man who's like not showing his face, he's like standing there taking it all in. And he kind of like addresses it all, and he is oh, and they also talk about how they asked the fairies to intervene, and the winter council person hasn't come back, and the summer council person is not interested really. They're gonna see, like, they're
Mhm.
gonna let the humans, and I forget what they call the vampires, but the vampires figure out what's going on. And
Mhm.
so, as the gatekeeper is figuring things out, all of a sudden, the emissary from the White Court comes back, and he's like, "The Queen said she asked for one of her like council or sorry, emissary. She asked for an emissary, but the person they sent to the Winter Court comes back. It's not exactly. It's like an envoy. And they said she picked her emissary, and the gatekeeper was like, "Hey, dude, is that you?" And Harry's like, yeah, so I kind of made a deal with her, and I thought I
Well, and
could
so
say
then,
no, but I
like,
guess I
basically
have to
the
say
council's
yes.
like, you should take the Fairy Queen up on her request. And
Yeah.
so then
And
that's
and
what
if you
happens. And
can
they're
be a
like,
detective for 5 minutes, you can keep your life. Like
right.
that's pretty much what it comes down to. Um, Well, and they also talked about how like Harry kind of got voted in because of the power he did, and like they wanted to actually like put him down to an apprentice, and if he's down to an apprentice, he can't be saved. They could just hand him
Mm.
over, like he's not as protected. So they're like, "No, take the deal. If you're worthy, you'll pass." And he's like,
Mhm.
"All right, I accept." And then I love this because Harry's such an idiot. He's sitting there and he's like, "I'm in big trouble." And then you go to the next page and it's like, "I don't really listen to the rest of the meeting."
Well, I just put like, they just give conditions for Dresden and they adjourn the meeting because
Right.
he didn't
So,
care.
yeah, I know. He goes, it's a good line. The rest of the council meeting was somewhat anticlimactic for me anyway.
Hmm.
Like, and so he's kind of like whining and feeling bad for himself. But he goes over to Murphy's and I'm like, how late is it, Harry? Stop
Hmm.
dropping in at people at like 10:30 at
He has to
night.
do the typical thing though, where he like talks her way up and he's like, oh, like the Chicago police wouldn't
Mhm.
be what they are today without
Yes,
Karen Murphy.
she
The
does it
city is
all.
safe because of her.
Well,
And then she meets him at the door with a gun and a crucifix. And I shouldn't laugh because she's like so terrified
I mean,
from
she's
the
also
events of the last
traumatized. Yeah.
book. So
Uh,
but it just makes me laugh that like she's got a gun and a crucifix,
But
and then she won't invite him in because she's like, I don't trust people anymore.
mhm.
And if you are somebody that's like a monster that needs to be invited in, then I don't have to
I
worry
can't do
as
that.
much.
Yeah. And so he does go through her threshold. It's pretty hard, but it also weakens him. So it makes her feel more comfortable. And he's like, "Hey, are
Mhm.
you good?" And she was like, "Well, in the last book, you literally weren't yourself. And I got stuck in a nightmare." And so
And
he realized
also, they find out that her husband died.
yeah, so apparently her first husband, who was much older than her, she got married really young. It sounds like 17, which I don't love that
Hmm.
age. With how because he's like 10 years older than her. Not
Hmm.
great. He died recently. He didn't tell her about it. Like he kind of wanted a normal life and she didn't want that. And so she's kind
Hmm.
of grieving. She has PTSD. And like Harry, again, trigger warnings. He does say things like, with the dream world, it was like the demon or like the ghost raped her. And I'm like, okay, but you also don't talk about your own sexual
Right.
assault. So we could talk about that and how you two are both
That's
grieving.
I have that
Um,
comment too. I said, I don't know if I'm cool with him saying that in a way she had been raped.
yeah,
And it's like,
I
but that
think
actually happened.
to
So that's
you.
very
So
uncomfortable that this was mentioned.
yeah.
But
And
then
so they
he
kind of,
kind of like shares a moment with her and talks about Elaine and reveals
yeah,
that she's his adopted sister
of course she is. Yeah, they were
because
raised
Justin
together.
adopted them.
He adopted them, but like only in name, like only in name. It wasn't weird. It wasn't weird, but like they were in
Okay,
love.
sure.
They were high school sweethearts. And then she went evil with Justin and tried to overtake Harry and make him like a vessel for Justin to do
Hmm.
whatever he wanted. And so Harry had to like burn them alive pretty much, which is going to be
Yeah.
awkward when Murphy runs into Elaine and like
Yikes.
in 5 chapters. I don't know if they do run into each other in this book, but I was like, that'll be awkward.
But also, it's mentioned that Murphy is like drinking a lot and
Mhm.
taking pills. She can't sleep because of the night terrors, and
Yes.
I felt really bad for her in all this.
And so she did ask Harry to be on. He's like, I need to find out about something that looks like a murder. And she's like, but that we said it was natural causes. And he's like, I don't think it was. And she asks to be on the case because if it's someone who's affecting Chicago, she wants to be there. And he makes a deal with her. So he kind of tells her like, yeah, this is like a spirit world. And she's like fairyland. And he's like, among other things. And she's like, that does not sound promising. But they kind of do
Yikes.
a little bit of a rundown. They look at the pictures and he sees goo that is from the Never Never, which is where they talk about that. And so they kind of just do a little bit of a rundown how he's going to go check out the scene and she wants to help him. And she kind of is going to sleep at that point because she has been
Yeah.
taking Valium and drinking. So I also love that he's like, man, her house is covered in doilies. Must be her
He says it's so
grandmother.
cute, and then he
I
talks
know.
about like how her grandma must have decorated, and then
I
he's like,
know.
she's got samurai swords, very her. I was like, I
Okay,
love this
sure.
detail.
Um, so then he kind of heads out. He heads on home and he
And he
said,
describes he describes his apartment again, which is annoying to me because it's like trying to give out the impression that it's like
it always sounds like
I'm
it's
so
so
cool, but I'm a nerd because there's a Star Wars poster and also like a lot of comic books, but tapestries and
the tapestries,
like
Laura. He also wants it to sound like it is so dinky, teeny, tiny, but then he's like,
and he's
but then
super
there are like
poor that he can't afford
15
things.
tapestries on the wall. I'm like, what are
That's
you talking
expensive.
about? That's expensive and like it covers a lot of ground. You can't be that locked in. But
The
anyway,
most notable thing is Elaine is at his
Elaine is
apartment
there.
and
Yeah.
she
And
is
she
alive.
goes, I let myself in. And he's like, where have you been? I thought you had died. And she's like, well, I made my escape and then I had to go into hiding. And I'm really
And then
good
I
at
wasn't just
cloaking
sure if I
myself.
wanted to contact you, she
Right. She's
says.
like, you tried to murder me. And he's just like, you tried to murder me. And you were gonna help Justin make me into nothing. And she was like, he had already done that to me. And I was like, Harry, did it never occur to you that she had lost
Well, because
her
they
free will?
he says that they're like thralls or something like
Yeah,
that. Was that what?
thralls. Yeah.
And she was like, "Yeah, well, I was a thrall. I was being controlled by him." Like, oh,
Well, that
okay,
makes sense. And I was also, as soon as she said it, I was like, well, why didn't you think of that, Harry?
right.
Like,
Why
I
did that
thought,
slip your mind?
yeah, I was like, was she acting like herself? I don't
Hmm.
understand. But yeah, so she was a thrall, and then she really doesn't trust the White Council, and he's like, you gotta trust them. And she's like, that's gone well for you, has it? And he's like, well, not really, but some of them
Look,
are okay.
she just
Um,
lays it out there, and they're they're talking about the logistics of like how it could play out for them to help each other, and
mhm.
he's like, "Let's just go tell the White Council," and she's like, "Yeah, the White Council does not care about you. Why do you think
Yeah,
they do?"
they're trying to
And then
vote to
who
like
shows
send
up?
you
The
over.
the White Council member who
Well,
cares about him the most.
but also before that, we find out that Elaine is the emissary for the Summer Queen,
Hmm.
and they're both trying to figure out who murdered this man. So it was actually this like person who was working for the Summer Court, and they think that the Winter Court did it, but the Winter Court is not allowed to do anything.
Ronald Rule is the dead man that they're trying to
Yes,
figure out how
and
he
Ronald
died.
Rule was like a hitman for the Summer
Hmm.
Court because the Summer Court can't go directly against people. They have to use these like hitmen. And so they think the Winter Court are
I
the
think it's
ones
the
who took.
queen, right? The
Yeah,
queens
the
can't
queen is not
actually
allowed.
like do any damage, so they have to have their own like guy that goes and does their dirty work for them,
Yes.
basically.
And he was one of the guys, and they think the Winter Court is the one who took him out. But he's like, well, Map hired me, so obviously it wasn't her. And she was like, that's maybe what she wants you to think, Harry.
Hmm.
And so they kind of talk about trying to help each other out, trying to figure out who did this. They're both emissaries, so they're both gonna have to do this to like work on their debt. And the fairies will not be happy if they find out that the other one is right. So they're in a little
Hmm.
bit of a pickle. Um,
So
and
that
that's
was
where
actually chapter 10, but like right before that, Morgan like he comes in and he thinks that he hears like
no,
he comes in.
that was right before Morgan shows up. They're doing like a little bit of a
Oh,
rundown.
oh,
Um,
because I have that description of
oh, well
Rule
the
in the after the
description of
dream.
the description of Rule is in chapter 10. That I did get ahead of myself, but we find out about her being Titania's emissary and how she has to
Oh,
like
okay.
look into Rule's death as well. So we didn't quite have all of that stuff out there. I just kind of put it out there because
Oh, gotcha.
linearly it helped me. But then Morgan does show up. Elaine has to hide. And he comes in and he just is Morganing it all up where he's like, I think you're dangerous.
Well, he's very much like it's all a conspiracy to him. It's very funny. And then he hears a noise in the bedroom as he's going to leave, and he's like, "Is that a vampire girl in there?" And he goes to turn, and it's Mr. like runs out.
Yeah.
He's like, "Sorry about my cat."
But during it, Morgan is like saying that he thinks Harry was in on it.
Mhm.
He thinks
Or
that
that they're
like
manipulating him. He's
mhm.
basically just like, "You're either working for the Red Court or they're manipulating you because you're just dumb."
And then he says
And
like Susan's just a pawn in their game.
mhm,
She's a vampire. She'll never be the same. And he's addicted to her venom. Weird.
mhm,
And so Harry goes to like hit Morgan and he realizes that this is the ace in the Merlin's hole, that
mhm.
he sent Morgan there to get Harry angry. And then Morgan could kill him cleanly without any problems. And
Yep.
Morgan has this moment of like, that's not true. And you could tell it's obviously true that there's a warden
Yeah.
waiting outside to see him.
Morgan's just like a terrible actor.
And this is where I was like, well, that's stupid because Morgan's supposed to be Mr. Rules Man, and this is
Mhm.
not a Mr. Rules Man thing. And I did roll my eyes at that. But then we do see Mr. And Elaine comes out and she was like, so that was the guy you wanted me to trust? Like, this is what you want?
Mhm.
I don't trust anyone. I don't think this is good. And so she goes to leave, and we find out she's very good at
Sweet
hiding
kisses.
herself. And then Harry has a dream about Susan becoming a vampire and killing
Yeah,
him.
it's like all very sexual and then it becomes very horrific.
Hmm.
And then he's like thinking about he goes and talks to Bob and they're like
Bob.
talking about Ronald Rule and
And
trying
Bob
to
is
like
just sitting there with his Victoria's Secret
yeah, gross.
magazines. So
After
gross.
he's like, "Oh yeah, like Elaine was always more powerful than you and she had boobs." Like, okay. Like,
Yeah, I
cool.
mean, yeah.
But this is when they talk about like how the knights like do the dirty work for the fairy
Hmm.
queens and
And
how the
so
summer queen is like missing some power and
mhm.
how the weather and the climate are affected by the two
Hence
seasons.
the raining frogs.
Hmm.
And so there must be balance. Right now, it's kind of leaning towards the Summer Queen. So this is throwing everything off. And so you do not want to deal with Mab
Just kind of based
and
on the
what's
time of the
going
year.
on. Yeah. Um,
And each of the courts also have three queens,
oh,
the
yeah.
ones who
The one
were, the
that,
ones who are, and the ones who are to come, which I thought was cool.
and he was like, one of them is Mother, one of them is Mab. And then
Hmm.
there's like the third one. So
Hmm.
he's like, any one of them could have been a part of it. It's just figuring out what happened and how. And so Bob
He's
is
like,
like, you
I'll go
need,
do some actual detective work
I'll go do
and
my
break
job.
into this man's apartment.
But Baba goes, Harry, be careful. I really care about you. And it's like, sure you do, Bob. Sure thing.
Like, whatever. Don't
And
believe you.
so Harry goes to the apartment building. I love this because he says, like, yeah, I had a logo and I was carrying a long white flower box under one arm. You'd be surprised how far a hat, a box, and a confident stride could get you. And I often say that you should lead with confidence and people will follow. And so that tickled
Hmm.
me to no end. And so he
I thought
goes
of
up.
you with that actually because I
Yeah,
was
oh
like,
good. That's like one of my biggest
very
comments.
Hannah.
It's just lead with confidence, people will follow. Which leads me to like stories where Laura once was like, I don't know what my percentages are for my ethnicity, like my ethnic background. And I was like, oh, I made mine up. I don't know what people ask, and you could just tell them whatever and they're gonna believe you. So it doesn't matter. So anyway, they go to the apartment building. He sees that someone is inside and
Mhm.
he slips in
Well,
and
the
it's
the apartment is just like a disaster. Everything's been kind of tore up and everything, but there's somebody in there.
there's somebody in there and he looks like he's from Thugs R Us. And I was like, what a callback. Um so
Okay.
Harry is like watching him and he's like, uh-oh, I don't know what to do. And then the thug sees him and he's like, I can't fight him. And he goes, well, I'm just a flower delivery man. I'm here for Mr. Rule. And the guy's like, not here. And he's like, well, I don't really care. Will you at least sign for it? And so the guy signs for it. And then he's like, I don't smell flowers, but I do smell magic,
A
wizard.
wizard.
And Harry is like, excuse me, Mr. Grum. I did like that where he was like, Mr. Grum. And so The guy goes to fight him, and we find out that he is an
An
ogre.
ogre. Yeah, because
And
he
so,
is like almost naked quickly.
yeah, he's wearing a loincloth.
Because like towards the beginning, like Billy the werewolf was naked really quickly, and now we have our second naked person almost.
But it's both men,
Grum.
so progressive. And so Harry fuegos, and
He also stabs him with a nail.
yeah. Oh yeah, that iron nail, and the guy like
And
starts screaming and everything. And so they
there's also a lady downstairs yelling at them.
and she is insinuating that they are two gay men fighting in very bad terms. And so Harry is able to kind of like knock the guy down, and he's like, "You got lucky, but this is not over." Um, and
And then he finds a picture of Rule at like
this
Disney
is
or
so
something with
funny.
women who are hot and in swimsuits, and then there's like some guys on the other side.
I was so confused where he's just like, "Who are these guys?" And because the ogre was trying to get this picture out of the apartment, so he's like, "Well, they're trying to hide something. Who are they?
Must be
Why
important.
had Rule been with them?" It's like, why was he at Disneyland? But there are police officers coming, so he's like, "I gotta go," and he stumbles out of the building, which is the end of the first third of, which I also think is a good setup. Like we have an entire like setup in the first third, and the mystery has thickened. The plot has thickened. The mystery is simmering. I'm excited for the rest of the book. So
Hannah,
I
I'm
liked
just
this.
telling you, this is a good book. Like,
This is shocking to me. I can't
I
believe
I'm still shocked. Still
book
shocked.
4 and we're in it. I really thought we wouldn't be in that
It's
first
taken us a while,
chapter
but
with Billy, but I guess, the fourth time's the charm, and we are
like
just
it's about time.
and oh, those summer nights, Laura.
The
uh
summer
so
night.
I can't wait to see if Elaine was actually a thrall or if she's lying to him. I can't wait to see
Yeah, that will be
the
interesting to find
godmother
out.
pop up. Um, you're like, oh yeah, I already know the answer to that one.
I have
Uh,
finished the book, so I will try harder to not
not
spoil
spoiler.
things.
But I'm excited. I really like this one so far, guys. This is new for us. This is something new and different for us. Um, yeah, but Laura's finished it.
I
So
I'm a fan of this one. It's taken a
Laura,
while, but you know what?
she's a
We earned it.
fanalo.
We earned it.
We did earn this, okay? So many Bucktown references. I do like that
Three
he is.
in-depth Dresden File books that were yikes. We earned a good one.
I will say that Harry Dresden seems to be a fan of the Blue Line because he is all over the West Loop area. So
Oh,
great
there
for
we
him.
go.
He's been in
Okay.
Wicker Park. He's been in Bucktown. And then he went to the Loop, which is, the urban center
hmm
of everything.
hmm
So nothing too bad Chicago wise. Overall, I'm having a good time. So join us next week to see what Hannah thinks. Laura's already a fan.
Yes.
But we will be reading chapters 12 through 22 of this much shorter novel than the last one, which is a good thing.
Yes.
And if you so choose, follow us over on Patreon. Like we said, we just put
Yeah,
up
we'd
our
appreciate your support.
Yes, we just put up our Patreon episode where Hannah did a breakdown of American Nightmare, like I said, but we also just did a deep dive into the New York Times top 100 books of the 21st century, or it was the 21st century.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, 21st century. So we did a deep dive into that, which ones we've read, which ones we want to read, and which books we did not care about. So take a look over on there. We have $1, $3, $5, and $10 ones. We also have a Discord with a premium Patreon channel. We're not as active right now because we are both
Things have
very
just been
busy
busy.
people. Because it's the summer, usually things are
Yeah.
winding down a little bit. But make sure you're also checking out things like our author highlights. We've had some great author highlights over at OWWR Pod, and we have some great things to come. So
We've also had some recent
ourpod.com.
author interviews. If you haven't checked those out, we had an author interview with Jeff Spate. We had an author interview with Jonathan Navarre recently. Check those out. They were great.
And check out our reading schedule on ourpod.com because we have everything up there right now.
More
That
fun
is
things to come.
so much fun. And if you would, please tell a friend or rate, review, and subscribe. That is really the best way to give us some support and get other people interested on the
Tell a friend.
conversation. Tell a friend. Just have them download. Download all of the episodes. It'll make our month. So
Yes.
make sure you're doing all of that and join us next week as we keep doing our deep dive into the year of the Dresden. Bye.
Bye.